and Audacity in 3, 2, 1.
Hi, guys, and welcome back to another episode of the Barbell Lifestyle Podcast. I'm your host, Christina Lynn, and I'm here with my co-host, Marissa Roy. And in today's episode, we are celebrating 100 episodes.
Woo!
Woohoo!
Super excited. Pretty wild that we are at 100 episodes, and that means in 4 weeks we will be at our 2-year podcast anniversary, which doesn't even seem right, but I guess it is because end of November and things kind of so wild. 2 years of podcasting. Feels like we just started, but also we sucked back then. So
yeah, but it doesn't feel like we have been podcasting for that long. I feel like
it really doesn't. So pretty awesome. Love that. And today we're going to be doing a Q&A instead of a normal topic. So we're actually streaming live on Instagram right now, and we are recording live here. So we'll take live questions, and we have questions that we put up in a questions box earlier today. And so we've got a good number. So I feel like we could probably just try to rapid fire through these questions as much as we can. Because if you guys don't know, the last Q&A we did was about 90 minutes long. We're not going to do that today.
No, that was crazy long.
That was not okay.
No. But yeah, so I guess we can dive right on in if you'd like to.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, cool. So I guess this is pretty relevant since you just got married, but what was your favorite thing about your wedding and maybe one thing that you would do differently?
Favorite thing about my wedding was, I don't know if I would really do anything differently. I would just want time to slow down on the day of, to be honest. But man, my favorite thing was just, I think we've talked about this before. It was having everybody from all walks of life be in one room, one place, and all celebrating together and meeting each other. I thought that was super special. And I also am super just freaking proud of the cookie tower that we had for our wedding. It was amazing. And it was a hit because cake is like hit or miss, but a cookie tower, everybody devoured it. There was barely any left. So it was awesome. That was my favorite part. And I would just slow time down and maybe have like a powwow around the bonfire and have everybody be all sappy and like share appreciation with each other. I love stuff like that. So
yeah,
maybe if we all like gathered around there, but if that was the case, we also would have gotten poured on because we wouldn't have ended the wedding early. So yeah, what about you?
So I was saying the exact same thing. Like, I wish time would slow down, and there wasn't really a whole lot that I would change because it was the absolute one of the best days of my life. If anything, I think like, again, it's so hard because like it was literally a perfect day. So the only thing I could think about is like maybe if I was doing like a vow renewal, I would want it to be a little bit smaller and more intimate. And so I know it's super funny because I have always told you and Aaron that like I loved getting married so much that I want to divorce my husband so I could do it again. And now you guys understand what I mean because it literally was such a fun day. So if anything, I would just have it be a little bit more intimate, which is crazy because my wedding was only like 55 people. So to think trying to narrow it down even more to like just maybe 20 people or something like that, and just having it just kind of be like a sit down dinner more so than like a huge dance floor and like all those things. But I mean, my favorite thing was just getting married. Like, it's so, I don't know, it sounds kind of cheesy, but just like having that, like, I don't know, even like right after when we walked away and it was just us and we had like a little moment to ourselves, it was like, holy crap, like we just did that. Yeah, other than that, I mean, it was such a fun day. I don't think I really would change anything about the actual day.
Yeah, we like looked at each other at dinner like after the ceremony. We were just like, how is it already like 6 p.m. right now? Like the day just started. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
We had a nice little time, and so our wedding planner did this, which I would highly recommend if you're getting married to have a at least a day of coordinator because
Yeah.
they had planned everything perfectly. So right after the ceremony, we had a little table to ourselves with like appetizers that they were passing around during the cocktail hour. And we just had like a little table. They had already gotten us a drink beforehand. So we were sitting there at the table and we had time to just eat and sit down and be with each other. And so that moment was really special for the two of us because we got to actually eat. Because I know a lot of people say at their weddings that they didn't eat anything.
Yeah. Yeah. We did not have that problem because it was small enough. But
Yeah.
day of coordinator was a great choice. Mandy, if you ever watch this, because we do follow each other on Instagram, you're the best. All right.
Yeah. All right.
What do we feel like our biggest accomplishments are in our business and in our life? You first.
Life, definitely building or not building or growing and growing and birthing a human was definitely my biggest life accomplishment. So he was everything. Like I never knew a love like this could exist, and I'm gonna try super hard not to cry because I feel really sappy whenever I talk about him. But definitely my biggest life accomplishment. And then as far as business, I would say it sounds I don't know, it may not feel like a big accomplishment to anyone else, but I would say that the moment I walked away from my full-time job, because that was when I was finally like, okay, like I can actually do this. Like I believe in myself enough. I'm taking this leap of faith and I'm going to do it. And I'm not relying on any other income except for what I pull in with coaching. So it may not be this like big monumental thing within the business, but I feel like personally for my business, that and actually creating an LLC and like being like, hey, I'm going to take myself seriously. I would say that was like the catapult for where I am now.
Yeah, I like that. I like that answer. Man, biggest accomplishments. For the life one, it's not that I'm like downplaying anything that I've done, but like material like accomplishments don't like, I don't know, they don't like make me want to like brag about them. So it kind of feels weird to like name something for this, to be honest.
Yeah.
But like if like I had a textbook answer of like what should my answer to this question be, probably like building a house and moving states like all on my own and with Aaron, which kind of ties into the business one. But I think if I really thought about what the coolest part of growing and scaling a business has been for me is having a full-time employee get a really massive check for their paycheck after a really great month. And I remember specifically, I don't remember what month it was, but I just remember like sending out that payroll and being like, I just wrote somebody a check for this much money. Like that's more than I used to make just on my own. Like, and that I have a full-time employee that I'm actually supporting with this business and like it's their livelihood and it's not just like me or Aaron, which of course we're both fully supported by the business income as well, but to have someone outside of like my immediate, like me and my husband now, was really cool to like have that be real. So I think just the growth in that way, because like I could throw numbers around and I could be like hitting our first blah 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 month or whatever, but like those things are super fleeting. And I think what's been really even cooler is, and I know you relate to this, is just having like people who actually have incomes from our business.
Yeah. Yeah. And you're like, oh, buying a house. I'm like, oh yeah, buying a house. Like we did that. And then it was like paying someone. And absolutely, like I remember my first employee, we're kind of going about this, not as like co-owners, but just very much like it was just us. So we would always talk back and forth. And her husband left for a while and she was like, things were starting to pick up and he was kind of like, well, I don't think that you can make, this much money while I'm gone. And if you do, like, we'll celebrate. And so we crushed that. And that was like really exciting for both of us because I was like, well, not only did I provide that, but like you earned it. So yeah, that was really cool.
Yeah.
And then for her, when we sat down, it's like, okay, what do you need? What do you want? And what would you like? And then what would she like? Like we've doubled that. So that's really cool to be able to like provide that to another person. And I come from it at like from a mom standpoint where she gets to stay home with her kid and she doesn't have to work. She can do that now from home and she loves what she does. So that's been really cool.
Love that.
Yeah.
Love that. right.
Next, favorite episode you have recorded.
Oh my gosh. This is so hard. I
Yeah,
hate
this
this
is really
question.
tough.
F you guys, this question sucks. I'm going on Anchor to see what our episodes are.
I really liked the one that we recorded with Cody, and I don't know if it's just because it was so recent, and it's funny because I was only there for half of the episode. But that one was really good. Oh gosh, I don't know. There are so many good ones that we recorded. And then I would
Yeah.
say, according to our audience, the one with Chris Bearcat, I mean, that's almost at 1,000
Really?
downloads.
Holy
Yeah.
crap.
It's at like 990 the last time I looked. And then the second one, I think, is Eric Helms, the first time we had him on. I think he's at like 690.
Yeah. Oh wow. Yeah,
So
no, I just saw.
Chris Bearcat, I think the body recomposition one was the audience favorite. But for us, I really like the one that we recorded with Cody, which is ironic because it's not one that's out yet.
Yeah. I will say, like, maybe this, I think favorite episode probably has to be an episode with a guest, right? Because it's just like there's
Yeah.
so much more insight that comes from having an expert in a different area on the show. I will say I really, really love talking to Nick Licamelli. We've had him on twice. And like, even if it's like, I don't know, like for example, one of our episodes is blood flow restriction training, and that's like a very niche topic and it's not going to get a ton of like traction, and like it's not even like my favorite thing to talk about, but like I just love talking with him. He's just so great and like a great personality. Like it always just felt easy being on the podcast with him. But what do you think? Here, I'm going to extrapolate this question. What has been your favorite duo episode of just us?
Oh man. Well, I was gonna say I think Jordan Syatt too. That one was really fun. I felt like he's very, very personable. And I like the way that he simplifies everything, which I really, really like.
Yeah.
I don't know. I like the Q&A one that we did. I think just because it was just, I don't know, just like really relaxed and casual. And I think that was really fun. And just talking about things that aren't super like sciencey all the time and just inviting a little bit more into our personal lives. So
Yeah.
I think that one was a lot of fun.
Yeah. I was actually considering, I was gonna suggest this and I forgot. I was like, we should just make this a happy hour podcast where I crack
Ooh.
open a Truly.
Yeah. Well, it's 3, it's almost 4 o'clock there. You could.
I could, but I'm gonna go work out after this. So
Oh, okay.
probably not the best idea. We'll do that another time.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
We could do it in person too. We could do like a drunk podcast.
I would love that.
I know you would. I'd have to say, like, favorite guest that we've had on so far. It's a very hard answer because there's just so many amazing guests that we've had, and that sounds so cliche, but it's true. I thought the same thing about Cody's, because it's just going to be so applicable. I've already sent it to people and it's not even out. Like I've just sent the Zoom video to some clients. I will also say, the conversation with Krista Scott Dixon sticks out to me in just terms of like applicableness for people to actually like gain value from. So, that's a hard question. All of them, all of our guest episodes are my favorite. And I hate that I can't like distinctively answer the question, but oh well.
Well, because I feel like everyone brings something different to the table and there's more insight. So it's hard to say like, well, this guest was the best because I feel like everyone had their own thing that they brought to the table.
Yeah. So that's the best we could do. All right. I don't know what this next question is supposed to be. I think it was supposed to be like a continuation from one of the other ones.
Yeah, like where do you see the episodes going, maybe?
Maybe. So let's take it from that angle then. So it's how have both of your businesses evolved over the last 100 episodes, and where do you see the episodes going? Let's say that's what it is.
Oh, I think the person's saying like, where do you see your businesses going?
Or that too.
That's what I see it as. But
Yeah.
um I would say that I feel like you and I have definitely gotten more business from the podcast, but that wasn't our intention from starting this. Like we wanted to bring out this podcast and bring about more information in a larger or a longer platform for content because we can talk for forever. And you and I think are very old school with like how we like to put out content. Like we like to write a lot. We like to write long form and we like to, because I feel like everything nowadays, you have to include everything. Like you have to say like every single caveat because people are like, well, what if you're da 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 da? And
Yeah.
but I think we both really like to talk and my son has found our dog bells on the door. So if you hear that in the background, that's what's going on. But I think that we have just grown more confident and just I think we're better on camera. We're probably not perfect, but I think that we're better. As far as businesses, I don't know, you can maybe elaborate more on the podcast and maybe where we
Mm,
see them going.
yeah. How have our businesses evolved over the last 100 episodes? I mean, like, to a certain extent, we are our businesses. And I say that in the frame of mind of the business can only grow so much as we grow as individuals because we are the CEOs, and that means we're the cap of growth that the business will reach. And so I think that it has like proportionally like grown with us, meaning like as we have grown as individuals, our businesses have also grown, and we've taken like really big leaps and steps to do that for ourselves and for our businesses and for our staff. And so over the last 100 episodes, I mean, it's been 2 years almost. December of 2020 was when we started this podcast. We were both one woman shows at the time. Like we were both just, coaching our roster of clients, and like it was our full-time. Well, no, it wasn't your full-time job yet. It was my full-time. And you were like in that awkward phase of like, I could do it. I don't want to do it. I could do it. I don't want to do it. And like all of that was going on. And so, I mean, even for you, that there's even more like growth in that because it's like you were juggling it part-time. And 2021 was a big year, I think, for both of us, because that's when I started with the mentorship and scaling. And then you quit your job shortly around that time, and then started that process yourself shortly after. So,
Got
I
pregnant.
mean, yeah, had a kid, got
Casual.
married, got a house, I moved states, like lots of life
All the
changes.
things.
But I think where do we see our businesses going? I mean, this is a hard question to answer. Do you want to go first?
Where we see, I think that right now, I love the idea of being able to support my employees even more than I am now. That's one of the things that I love, that it's beyond me. So you and I, again, we're in the exact same situations where we started our businesses as Christina and Fit and, Marissa Roy Fitness, is because it was just us. And that was all that we really saw because we didn't, I don't know. I think especially too, we didn't like the idea of giving up control and letting anyone come on because we kind of had, I don't know if it was a fixed mindset or just the belief that like, no one can do anything better than me within my own business. And so I
Yeah.
think that we've really grown as individuals and have learned to trust. So I see us scaling even larger, possibly bringing on more employees. And I mean, really stepping away from the coach role and probably going more into CEO role, which is something that I never expected that I would ever say because I love coaching. And so trying to find gratification between our coaches helping our clients and still trying to feel that exact same way. So that's kind of where I see myself going and probably niching down even more and rebranding, so it's not Christina Fit, because it's not just about me anymore, and it's more about the lives that we're changing and the people that I'm supporting.
Yeah. This is such a hard question because for me, the integrity of the business is what matters the most. So I have a vision of this becoming PCC becoming such a greater vision and purpose and business than, I can even kind of fathom at the moment. Like, I want this to be freaking big, but I will never allow that at the expense of the quality of service that we deliver. And it's just inevitable that the more and more people that you add, the more risk you introduce because there's just more people and there's more interaction. And that's hard. But I firmly believe in the concept from Good to Great by Jim Collins. If you get the right people on the bus, things will turn out okay. So I think just really being slow to hire, and that's what I've really been trying to exercise lately with our assistant coach hire, and we're also in the process of hiring another staff member on the back end. Just being slow to hire and really looking for the right kinds of characters with that. And yeah, I mean, I don't have a limit for what this business can become. I can easily see us scaling to the point of having, 10, 12, 15 coaches and a bunch of back-end staff. So probably a staff of like 30, and operating in that capacity. But, I don't really know where it can go from there. It might be a business model change at that point beyond that number of coaches, but I have an open mind, and right now I'm just working through not being the business's ceiling myself, and working on what's called the upper limit problem. If you haven't read, have you read The Big Leap by Gay Hendricks?
No.
I'm reading it right now, or listening to it, I guess, if you
Mhm.
want to say that, but I'm listening to The Big Leap by Gay Hendricks. I love it so far because it's literally addressing exactly what I'm going through. And it's basically whenever you're on the ceiling of like where your kind of potential is right now, and where you believe your potential is, when you're on the ceiling of it and you're about to have this big breakthrough, you hit what's called the upper limit problem, which is where all of your fears and your insecurities try to drag you back down to where you were. And you try to, bring yourself back into what's comfortable. And I've noticed myself doing that with like taking on clients of my own, with like getting sucked back into coaching, getting sucked into being in the business instead of working on the business as the CEO, and filling my time with the things that are going to help us grow and scale, and staying focused on that. It's really, really hard for me because I do enjoy coaching, and that's the difference between the zone of excellence and the zone of genius. So the zone of excellence is I'm excellent at coaching. I am, but I need to be in my zone of genius, which is breaking through that. And my zone of genius is going to be leadership and coaching my team and scaling the business with that integrity that I mentioned at the beginning in mind. So that's where I'm going right now with it.
No, I love that. It's a good answer. And I think that that's kind of a good transition to like kind of like, oh, like how have the businesses evolved? How has the podcast evolved? And then like if we get any guests on the podcast, who would it be?
So I got this on my anonymous question. Some of these questions that were asked were not anonymous, some of them were, but I answered The Rock. And from a selfish point of view of if he's on our podcast, how much traction that would get us.
Yeah.
But also because he's like just an amazing like picture of like what happens when you put your head down and you work, and you achieve levels of success that most people cannot fathom, like cannot actually digest when you think about how much he has done. So I think that's pretty cool. And I forget who else I said. I said a few other people, but
Gary Vee.
yeah,
That's who you said. Gary Vee and one other person. Now I
Tony
can't remember.
Robbins,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
big mindset, wealth, success, speakers. I think they're great. So potentially them. Aaron saw that question and he was like, the president of the United States. And I was like, what? Why? Like he was like, whoever they are at the time, just have them on. And I was like, I mean, like, I guess.
It'd be so weird.
I know.
I don't know. I like the idea of Gary Vee because I think that it'd be cool and kind of full circle if we had Jordan Syatt on and then to have Gary Vee on and also to get like Gary's kind of perspective
Oh, that'd
of
be
everything.
funny.
Yeah, that'd be really fun. And then two, I kind of like the idea of having Aaron and Jordan on because I feel like they were really influential into like where we are now. So I think that'd be really fun to talk to them and talk business side of things.
I'll set it up.
Cool. Yeah. All right. So are either of you going to compete again?
You can go first.
So the other day I hired a coach and I told my husband and I also told my coach, I'm like, I'm either going to compete or I'm gonna get really hot again and then get pregnant. And my husband was like, I support that. So I am gonna just kind of feel out how it's going and see how I feel and if that's the route I want to go. But if you had asked me this in 2020, I probably would have been devastated had I gotten pregnant during that prep because I worked so hard and I hadn't been on stage since 2017. But also now, like I have hindsight. So I'd be like, if I got pregnant, like that's what I want. So I'd be super excited for it. So if I am in prep and I get pregnant, I'm totally fine with that. But like not if I'm at the very end. Like if I'm at the very end of my contest prep, I'd be very frustrated.
Yeah, that would suck.
Yeah, to do all of that work and to get super shredded to only get pregnant. So I like the idea and I would like to compete again because it is something that I enjoy and I think it develops me as a person because I think that you should step out of your comfort zone and do hard things and prep is really hard. So I like that aspect of things to push myself not only physically but mentally because I think it just reinforces the idea of like, hey, I can do anything that I put my mind to. But I mean, the next question is like plan for kids and more kids. Like, yes, I do plan to have kids. So if I'm having more kids and I need to compete, like, I feel like I'm aging myself, but compete in like masters, then I would definitely do that because I do really enjoy the sport.
Yeah, I have a huge question mark on this question. I
Yeah.
really don't know. I would like to say the answer to this question is yes, because that's been my answer for many years. But like, I just don't see it happening in the next 12 to 24 months of life. If you have not been following my journey, I competed in 2018 twice, and then from 2018 on entered a very long off season and continued training in a bodybuilding style for like a good, 4 years basically until like earlier this year. When we moved was when I switched modes of training to CrossFit. It was intended to be like a add-on, like I train at the gym a couple times per week and I do CrossFit a couple times per week. But as soon as I started going, I was like, honestly, with where I was mentally, it was like having a group setting and showing up for class and having someone just yell at me to tell me what to do was literally the only way that I was going to actually follow through on working out because that's how burnt out I was at the time. And in hindsight, admitting that, I'm like, my God, like that's really where I was. But I was really, really burnt out of just training the way that I was training for the past 7 years. So after about 7 years of being consistent, it could get stale. For some people, it doesn't. It never gets stale. And I think if I went back to it now, I could find that love for it again. I can confidently say I do feel that way, but I'm really enjoying a lot of the new skills that I'm learning. And I could see myself like casually competing in like local CrossFit competitions with friends for fun now. But I don't think I would ever actually pursue like that as a sport like I would bodybuilding. And I would like to say that I would bodybuild again because I want to do it one more time before I hang the hat up. But I just don't know. Because it's like your life's got to be in a particular place. And even if it doesn't have to be in an exact place, it's like, for me to go through that kind of sacrifice again, I would probably want the business to be in at least a place where I'm not working the way I'm working now. So
Yeah.
there's that.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree.
And you already answered the kids question.
Yes, all of them.
The next question was plans for kids, more kids.
Yes, I want 10.
But realistically, like how many?
Realistically, my husband, I think, said he'd probably be good at 2. If we had a girl, he'd be like, I'm done. I might be able to convince him for 1 more. So I would say 3, which is literally crazy. And I told my husband that the other day. I was like, wow, I have to give birth 2 more times. But no, I think that 2, but I think I could think of 3.
We basically agreed on 2 or 0 because well, having 1, like, we don't want to have like an only child situation. Like, as much as I love being an only child, but at the same time, I would want my kid to have a companion, at least for like, a good part of their life. So having like 2 kind of back to back, same age range ish, like within a couple years, and then either that or 0. But I do think we're gonna lean more towards like 1 or 2, to be honest. Like
Yeah.
we might stop at 1, who knows? But yeah, so not for another 6 to 7 years. That number keeps getting smaller though. It used to be 8 or 9. I used to say I have a decade until I can have kids, but now
Yeah.
it's getting shorter.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm like, oh, like 6 or 7 months. Like,
Yeah, crazy.
I know. We'll see. I originally had thought maybe trying at the 1 year mark, but we'll see what happens with my fitness journey. Cause I do, and I never understood this until I got pregnant and have gone through a pregnancy. But a lot of people who are like, oh, I want to get in better shape before pregnancy comes. And I was like, why? That's a waste. But now I'm like, oh, that makes sense. So I feel like if I were to get pregnant now, like obviously I'd be elated because I want another child, but I would probably enjoy my pregnancy that much less because I'm not in a good spot now. So getting pregnant on top of that. So that is something I'd like to do, which is why I'm probably going to hold off a little bit longer. But that's really funny because I think that's a good transition to what would we be doing if we couldn't be fitness coaches, if that like wasn't well, or like I think that they're trying to say like what you would do if like you had to pick another career, essentially.
Wait, I know, but I have to point something out that's super funny. Okay, so how has the podcast evolved over the last 100 episodes? One of our previous questions we answered. There was a time in like the early episodes where every time we'd be like ready to switch topics, Christina, you would be like, we'd be talking about one thing and then be transitioning to something completely different. And you'd be like, well, that's a great segue into blah, blah, blah. And I'd be like, it's really not, but like, okay.
Oh man. Oh, that hurts my feelings.
It was really cute. So I never said anything, but like you would be like,
Oh
I
man.
was like sure in my mind that like maybe you had linked them up somehow and been like, yes, this transition makes sense.
In your head, you're like, wow, Christina's really stupid.
It's just like, I was just like, I'm gonna let it go because I really don't know how this is a good transition. But that like reminded me of it because we were like talking about more kids. And then the next question is, what would you do if you can be fitness coaches? And my brain just did not link those
Well,
two.
because my answer makes sense. I would
Okay.
love to be like a labor and delivery nurse.
Okay, that makes sense.
Thank you.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
That just reminded me. It was very funny.
Oh man, I'm
I
getting
love you.
butthurt about that.
While you answer that question, I'm gonna run and grab a charger for my phone. So take your time answering this question.
Okay, well, I did just answer it, but like I mentioned, I would probably be like a labor and delivery nurse, which I hate the idea of going back to school for that position because it does require a lot of schooling. But maybe if I hadn't gone through and done my undergrad degree, I would have just done that. But I never really liked babies. Like it just wasn't my thing. I never had like I don't know, I just didn't really see myself having kids. I liked other people's kids, but I just really wasn't like a baby person. But after going through and having one myself and just watching them grow and learn and develop, I just love everything. And I just think it is incredibly fascinating, like how quickly babies learn and I'm reading this book right now. It's called Brain Rules and it's written by I think a neurologist. But it's just really fascinating, like how we got to where we are now with like how our brains have developed. And it's pretty wild to think that our brains are basically the reason why like so when they talk about I'm probably going to go off on a tangent, so I'm going to end it here. But it's just incredibly fascinating and I love everything babies. I will seek them out. I will find people in the store to talk to them about their babies. Like I'm a little bit obsessed, so that's probably what I would do if it like could be anything related to fitness or coaching. That's what I would do.
I really don't have an answer for this question because I haven't thought about it. And I've been asked this before and I get equally as stumped. Also, I went all the way across the house and my AirPods kept you in my ear the whole time, Christina. So
All right, I'll get some.
it is wild how good that was. I was
I'll
literally
get
like,
some.
I was like, it's gonna get no, I'm literally just like gushing about it right now. Like
Yeah.
I thought it was gonna cut out by a certain distance and it didn't. So anyways, technology, man, pretty cool, right? You'd think we'd be used to that by now. Okay, so what would I do if I couldn't be a fitness coach / business owner? Um, so I had no plan, like out of high school. I was just like, my intention was to major in exercise science and do something with fitness. So like, that's all I had. I didn't really know if that was just like personal training because like I kind of heard that it's like that's kind of a shit lifestyle for a lot of for a lot of people. Um, so I really don't know. I guess the direction I was almost headed in was like research, like actual scientific research and stroking my own ego with that. What else? I really don't know. If I could, well, let's say like amazing case scenario of I retire super early and I'm not going to be a fitness coach because we like sold the business for millions of dollars, then I would just write novels.
All right.
But that's like if I didn't actually need an income. So yeah.
Yeah, I'd be both.
Both what?
I would do labor and delivery if I didn't need an income or did.
Yes.
Yeah. All right, cool. I'd love to hear how you deal with low energy in a deficit. It is so demotivating.
I hear you. This is tough because it sucks. I am very much culprit to this when I diet. I get very lazy and very lethargic, and I think dealing with it is half the battle, like just actively like acknowledging it, being like, I am tired and I recognize this, and then exercising discipline and saying I'm going to get myself going either way, regardless if I'm tired or if I'm energized. And what I've also found is that getting started usually helps the issue of like once you kind of get moving and you get your blood flowing a little bit, like if you use what we call like the 10-minute rule, if you just promise yourself, I'm just going to do 10 minutes of my workout, like whether that's just the warm up or like a couple exercises or something, promise yourself that, and then you'll probably end up following through if you are tired. So I don't know, that's that's what I have to say.
Yeah, it's very similar. I would say just accepting it, just recognizing that that is probably going to happen if you are dieting. If you are in the very beginning stages of a diet, probably not. But the further you go, just recognizing like, hey, that's kind of a little bit of a trade-off. Like if we want to lose weight, we want to get leaner, sometimes that happens. And so I think that just accepting it kind of helps rather than trying to like fight it. But I would say that try not to rely on caffeine because I think that can make things worse and exacerbate the issues. So I would say just really trying to focus on sleep and making sure that your sleep quality is there and doing some things that can maybe help with your routine and kind of give you some natural energy. So like kind of leaning into your circadian rhythm and like going out and first thing in the morning, like exposing yourself to sunlight, that can help a little bit too. And trying to take advantage of the times that you do have energy. So making that a priority to get whether it's workouts in or whatever is super important that you need to do at that moment. I would do it then and try not to not move. Like it's still important that you're getting steps in, you're doing all those things, even though you are feeling low energy. And then I would also, I was going to say this transitions nicely into the next question.
Wait, I have something for this first.
But I was going to say that like, if you do have a significant other, like talking to them and saying like, hey, like I'm not feeling as energetic as I normally am, but this is just a temporary thing that will help or that will get better once I'm eating more food.
Yeah. Okay. So I was super stumped when I first read this question, and now it's all coming back because you actually started saying useful like things for the answer, and I was like, oh yeah, I have knowledge too. Okay, I can do this. This is how my brain's been all week. But basically, I was gonna say increasing the proportion of food in your diet that is whole single ingredient foods for the purpose of energy. So do kind of a vet and take inventory on your actual, like your quality of your diet. So, are we eating a calorie deficit of however many calories, but then like 80% of that is stuff that's coming out of a bag or a box or a package? That is going to drastically impact the amount of actual nutrients that your body is absorbing and utilizing as energy, because it's not just calories and macros when it comes to dieting. It's okay, not only is having more packaged and processed foods giving you a lot of variability in your diet that could just make it harder for you to lose weight, and then you're in the deficit for longer, so you're tired for longer. But if you increase the proportion of foods that are single ingredient, nutrient dense foods, for example, whole grains, fruits, vegetables, lean proteins, dairy, eggs, like those kinds of things, they are going to just have more micronutrients that your body can absorb and utilize in the metabolism as energy. So you might get more out of the food that you're eating, the calories that you are assigned, if a higher proportion of those calories are nutrient dense foods with lots of micronutrients in them. So do like a vet of that with yourself as well as your hydration, because both of those things really contribute to your energy as well. And then lastly, I would say if it's chronic and it's been really bad for a while, make sure you have a high quality multivitamin that covers all your bases, because even if you are eating a very wide variety of fruits and vegetables, if you are deficient in a vitamin, you're not going to get 100% of every micronutrient from a diverse diet every day. Like as much as you try, it would be nearly impossible, and especially in a calorie deficit, to do so. So have a multivitamin as an insurance policy to cover those bases just in case, and then also try to have as many fruits, vegetables, whole grains, and nutrient dense foods on top of that within the calories and macros that you have.
Yeah. And I'll also say too, like if you're in contest prep, like sorry, like suck it up. Like
You're gonna be
there's
dead.
yeah, you're gonna feel awful, especially at the very end. But trying to have like, okay, there's a light at the end of the tunnel type thing. But if you are just dieting and this is a lifestyle diet, like you're only trying to lose 5 or 10 pounds, like we have an episode on this, like, the last 5 pounds, or is it really the last 5 pounds? Like, try to weigh out, like, is this worth it? Is it really worth it for me to lose a couple extra pounds if I feel awful every single day? Do I really want abs? Like, because sometimes that is the trade off for a lot of people. Like, in order to get lean and see that definition that you're looking for, to have a super flat stomach, like it does require quite a bit to be in a deficit. And this might be kind of a wake up call, like, hey, I actually don't think I really want abs. Like, it's just not worth it to me to not be able to go out with friends and family, or to be flexible if I have to be this rigid. And you might just call it and say, you know what, I thought I had this goal, but I don't actually really want it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So big plug, go listen to that episode. It's great. Why it's not just 5 pounds, episode 50 something. Do you want to answer the last question, or do you have enough time?
Yeah, let's go for it.
Okay.
He's been playing independently. I don't know what he's been getting into, but yeah, we'll
Okay.
go for it.
Cool. Last one. Do we think it's important and vital for a significant other to be into health or fitness in some fashion? So I had this one through my anonymous questions as well. So basically what I said was, it is definitely, I mean, like, if it is a core value to you, then it matters, right? Like, so if you care about this being a thing, then yes, it's important and vital. But I would say, in terms of just generally, if we are truly pursuing a permanent lifestyle change, it is probably going to be pretty important that you at least share an understanding of your values at the very minimum. And I don't think two people will ever be exactly in the same place in terms of where it falls as a priority. Like, for example, me and Aaron right now are both, pretty dedicated to our health and fitness journey. But right now on his priority list, it's like here. And for me, it's like here. Like, he is going like way harder than me. It matters a lot more to him at this moment in time. And it fluctuates. Sometimes it's the other way around. But the backbone of it is that it's a core value for both of us to take care of our bodies. And if it's not a commonly held value, it will just cause more friction if there is not extremely strong communication around it. And for some couples, they do have it where it works, and it works well if they have the firm understanding of, this is a priority for, let's say, wife, and it is not a priority for husband. So we operate separately in this one arena of our lives, so that we don't create friction or put pressure on each other. A lot of times with relationships, it's like pressure on each other. Like, if it's a value for me, it has to be a value for you. That's not necessarily true, but it is something that does integrate itself into very, very many parts of our lives. Food is everywhere, and going to the gym takes up a lot of time. It is something that we spend a lot of time together doing. So, like, for example, Cody McBroom, he's talked about this with his wife. Like, she's like healthy, but like she doesn't really give a crap like he does. And so sometimes she'll like want to eat ice cream. And like, their understanding now is that she will eat ice cream, but like she doesn't necessarily need him to join her, because they have the communication and the understanding that like, that's not his goals, that's not a priority. He doesn't like feel great having that pressure come from someone, so they have that clear understanding. But I think where it goes wrong is, a lot of times people just don't talk about that stuff, and so it's like, oh, I want to eat ice cream, I want to do this, and it's like one's the enabler and one's just resentful. That never ends up good. So we have to just either communicate a shit ton, or it is a value at the backbone of the relationship. I think that one is easier than the other, certainly, but you can make it work either way. It's just, you have to really work at it.
Yeah, this is a tough one, because I don't think that someone needs to be into health and fitness the same way that I am. But I do think that, at least for my relationship, and I would say the same thing goes for my husband, like it's a value that we have within our life and what we look for in a significant other, because it's saying like, hey, I value health and fitness. And so I think it's important that I take care of my body and I exercise in some form of fashion, because it's going to help with longevity and just, just for all the reasons that we exercise, for the health component. And I would say the same thing with food, like, because we have a understanding of how we both like to eat. And, we're not like ordering food all the time, or we're not having, I don't know. But that's not to say that we're not like super rigid and we don't enjoy ourselves. But like, I go on a daily walk every single day. And my husband doesn't like walking because he thinks it's really boring. And he's out more than I am during the day. So he's out walking around while he's at work where I'm at home. And so I love the idea of like taking Colton outside and like getting him some fresh air or taking Sadie on a walk. And I enjoy that, but he doesn't really come with me because he just doesn't like it. But is that a like deal breaker within our relationship? Like, no, absolutely not. Like we will both work out together and we value that time, and we will support each other. Like last night he came home and he changed and I said, "Are you working out?" And he's like, "I'd like to go on a run after I put Colton down." And and I was like, "Okay, awesome." So there was no like, I don't know, there's no issue with that. And I like that because he's saying I like support my fitness goals. And as far as competitions, like that is very, very selfish at the very end. And so we recognize like, hey, I'm going to be a lot more into health and fitness. And I think that's something too to think about is like, just because someone's into health and fitness, like it doesn't mean that you can do that in an unhealthy way, because you absolutely can. Like if that is taking precedent over your relationship and family and other values, then that can become a really big issue. So trying to find that balance, but what that balance is for you and your relationship, and being able to communicate that to your significant other. So I would say if I was, in a relationship with someone who didn't do anything, I'd say like, hey, this is something that I value and I'm going to do this. And like, I don't think that I would be attracted to someone who didn't value that at all. And like their actions reflected that. So it's hard because it's like, it doesn't mean that someone has to be like super shredded and like have like a six pack and like, and huge muscles but I feel like that's almost like it's like an outcome of the lifestyle and the values that they have, if that makes sense. Or like, that's what I'm attracted to, is them valuing that.
Yeah. So actually you made me think of this. We've done this would you rather multiple times because Aaron like is continually mind blown at my answer. But it's basically like he'll ask, would you rather have me like eat like a total asshole all the time? Like I don't care about health, I don't work out, and I just happen to be really shredded. And then the other side of the would you rather is, would you rather me be that, or would you rather me eat really clean, work out really diligently, and be super dedicated, but I could never break below 300 pounds? Like, which me would you rather have? Super aesthetic, but like does not actually care about health and fitness, or works really, really freaking hard, but is overweight, like significantly overweight? And my answer is the latter. Like, it is about the value of having health and fitness at the core of the relationship and the behaviors that we're going to engage in together, rather than the way that somebody looks. And so when I say that I think it's important and vital for my significant other to have fitness and health be a priority, that doesn't then say that I expect my partner to look a certain way. And there's no expectations on the outcome. But like you said, it typically ends up being a byproduct of, the habits that you have is the way that you look, to some extent. So yeah.
Yeah. So it's kind of the idea, like if I'm taking care of myself and my health and fitness, but then my partner or my spouse is not, then that it's not that like you need to work out. It's like, hey, this is a thing that I value within my, like, I don't know, our relationship. So like, you don't need to do exactly what I'm doing, but like you need to do something.
Yeah.
So so that was super fun. So kept it under an hour this time. So if you guys want us to do another Q&A, definitely let us know, because we always think that these are super fun, and we think the questions that you guys come up with are very thought-provoking. But I need to go put my little one to bed. But yeah, we hope that you guys enjoyed this episode. And if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to the podcast. You can find both of us on Instagram. You can find me at Christina Fit. Marissa is at Marissa Roy Fitness. Thank you guys so much for listening, and we hope to see you back next week.